Hey guys. So today, real quick, I just want to give you an opportunity to possibly make some points up on your test. Some of you may have seen some scores that maybe you didn't want, but this is going to be a little review opportunity for you to look into this test again and hopefully make up some points. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to go over each of these questions and hopefully you can maybe see what you did, see where the mistake was, and then hopefully you'll take advantage of the opportunity to make up some points. So let's check this out. So this is the writing portion again, and you can see here, A, describe how industrialization affected immigration. All right, so this is I think this is pretty basic, the answer here, what I'm looking for. But you have to think, first of all, about this word right here, industrialization. All right, so what is industrialization? We talked about the growth of business. We talked about as businesses grew, more jobs were created during industrialization. How is that going to affect immigration? Well, you have to think, now we have more jobs. Somebody needs to fill those jobs. So we had an influx of immigrants coming in. Why? To fill the jobs created during industrialization. Let's look at the second one. What was the Great Migration and how did it affect urbanization? All right, so a couple key words here again. Great Migration. All right, we talked about urbanization. So first of all, what was the Great Migration? Well, the Great Migration was the movement of African Americans from the South to the North. Now, a key part of that, though, is from the rural South. Remember, we talked about rural areas, farming land, to the urban North or cities in the North. How did it affect urbanization? Now, a lot of people said, well, cities grew because people moved north. Well, yes, but I need you to be a little bit more specific. Why did cities grow? Because African Americans, when they came north, they went to cities. Why? One, they escaped racism in the South. They escaped Jim Crow in the South. They escaped prejudice in the South. But they also came north searching for jobs. Where did we say the jobs were that were created during industrialization? Urban areas or cities. So they moved to cities. African Americans moved to cities. Why? To take those jobs. Next one here, C. What is progressivism? Why did industrialization lead to progressivism? All right, so we talked about progress, moving, making progress, changing some of the social problems that industrialization created. What is progressivism? When we change those social problems caused by industrialization. Why did industrialization lead to progressivism? Remember, we talked a lot about the problems of industrialization. We didn't have government oversight. What's that term that we say when government doesn't get involved? Government keeps their hands off. Okay, or we had a laissez-faire government. Why did industrialization lead to progressivism? Because government didn't kind of regulate the problems that were being created. Next, what are 3 ways whites attempted to restrict African Americans from voting? If you recall, we talked about those voting restrictions. Talked about having to take a literacy test. Talked about having to pay a poll tax. Talked about having to own land, be a landowner. And let's say you couldn't do those 3, but your grandfather did vote, the grandfather clause. So whites attempted to use those 4 things. Describe the Jim Crow laws and what was the verdict of the Plessy v. Ferguson case. Okay, so once again, there's a couple parts here. Jim Crow laws allowed for segregation to be legal in the South. And after the verdict of the Plessy v. Ferguson court case, it really was legalized. So we saw separate but equal was the verdict. And segregation is legal as long as facilities are equal. And remember the day that we rode the bikes, and there was 2 different bikes. Okay, one was better than the other, but they both had 2 wheels. They both had 2 pedals. They both had a chain. They both had tires. They both had a seat. So that was separate but equal in the eyes of the law. Next, describe 3 ways voters receive more influence and power. All right, so this is a big one. We talked about, what did we try to do to Ellie? Tried to kick her out. Tried to recall her. Then you guys got to create a new law in class. You guys took initiative to start something new. You had an initiative. Now, just because you took initiative doesn't mean that it was automatically a law. So you had to have a referendum to vote on that new initiative. You guys also got to pick who you wanted as the fast food president. And we picked Wendy. But in order to do that, we had to have a primary, the direct primaries. You could have also said something about the 17th Amendment and the direct election of senators. 17 senators. Down here, I ask you guys to analyze a document. You're looking at a section from The Jungle. All day long, the gates of the packing houses were besieged by starving and penniless men. They came literally by the thousands every single morning, fighting with each other for a chance for life. Blizzards and cold made no difference to them. They were always on hand. Sometimes their faces froze, sometimes their feet and hands. Sometimes they all froze together. They froze all together. But still they came, for they had no other place to go. What is one problem progressives were concerned with based on this passage? A lot of people were confused about this word, progressives. These are the people that wanted change. These are the people that wanted the changes to happen. What were they concerned with based on this passage right here? The ability to get a job. Conditions. Those were a couple things that they were concerned with. Number 2, this passage is from the work of a muckraker. What's a muckraker? It's a journalist that seeks out the wrongdoing in businesses. What did they hope to accomplish? They hope to change those conditions. They hope to give a better opportunity, a better chance. Finally, your essay. Describe how women receive suffrage. All right, so here's what you need to do. You need to discuss what suffrage is. Suffrage is the right to vote, not women's right to vote. Now, women's suffrage is women's right to vote, but some people just think suffrage is women's right to vote. No, it's everyone's right to vote. It's called suffrage. Who influenced women's suffrage most? That was that lady, Susan B. Anthony, that tough lady that we talked about, Susan B. Anthony. What are a couple different ways these women used to gain suffrage? One was civil disobedience. They didn't follow the laws intentionally. Why? To try to change the laws. They tried to get individual states to allow women to vote. They tried to get a constitutional amendment. What amendment gave women suffrage? It was the 19th Amendment. You could have also said something about World War I. World War I helped gain women's suffrage because as men were off fighting, women were doing men's jobs. Hey guys, so I hope you take advantage of the retake opportunity, but this is a good opportunity to review.